and welcome to this discussion about the digital changeover. This video is designed for executives, managers, and individuals who are in an industrial age company that has recognized the need for a digital changeover in their company. They know they need to respond to the digital transformation happening around them, but aren't sure how to get started. Well, we'll discuss the reasons why a digital changeover strategy is needed and the major elements of that strategy. To do that, we'll take a few minutes to first understand what it means to be a digital company. I'm Ray Sheen, and I'll be leading this discussion. I have over 35 years of experience as a business leader and a technologist. I've been a manager and executive with a Fortune 100 company, and I've worked with small startups. I've been consulting on innovation topics for over 15 years. I've worked in many different industries, including aerospace, medical devices, high-tech, automotive, machining, molding, logistics, and I've even worked with several financial services companies. Now, I've led the introduction of digital products and services for companies, and I hold several engineering degrees and a graduate certificate in digital leadership. Now, don't misunderstand. I don't tell you all that so that you'll think this program is about me. It's not. But I want you to know that I've been where you are. I've developed and introduced new technologies and fought with the startup problems of new business systems and processes. I've had to make a budget and live within it. I've had to overcome cultural and organizational barriers as we implemented needed business changes. And I've had to organize and retrain the people in my department so that they could adopt the new business model. Anytime a business has to do a changeover, it's hard work, and this won't be any different. And that's why we need to understand what it takes to create a strategy and a plan to get it done. So let's get started.
Going digital is not a trivial decision, at least not if you're an industrial age business. It's going to impact virtually every aspect of your business. It'll impact your infrastructure, your workforce, your product lines and the processes that build those product lines, and of course, your customers. This is because digital means a power shift with corresponding changes to react to that power shift. The power shift will include digital native companies who don't have the infrastructure and bureaucracy that has grown up around our industrial age businesses. These companies are nimble and can quickly outmaneuver other established companies to take advantage of opportunities in the market. And of course, there's new digital communication. It seems that everyone is connected to everyone else in the world. Real-time communication is happening without people needing to travel and schedule meetings to occur weeks or even months in the future. The speed of business is now. Another shift is the information and data available. Decisions no longer need to depend upon people with 30 years experience relying on their gut instinct. Now there is real-time, comprehensive data available that simplifies decision-making and drives it to the lower levels of the organization. And of course, there are new technologies. New digital platforms, new connected devices, better accuracy and fidelity in systems, and the ability for remote access and control have revolutionized both consumer and industrial products and processes. When disruption hits an industry, there are 5 possible responses. Now, 3 of these aren't going to be viable with digital disruption. Those are elimination, which is to drive a competitor out of the business; isolation, which is to create barriers to prevent the competitor from engaging in your market; ignorance, which is to stick with your current market segment and ignore what is happening in the other parts of the market. These aren't viable because digital is just too big, it's everywhere, and it's rapidly growing in influence. The other 2 approaches are viable. You can partner with an existing digital business to immediately have digital solutions. While this may turn part of your business model over to other companies, it does free you to focus on what you do best and to make that digital. The other option is to challenge the disruptors and out-digitize them. This strategy will take some deep pockets and time to implement, but you do maintain maximum control, provided you can survive until the strategy bears fruit. And just so we're clear why we can't eliminate, isolate, or ignore the digital transformation that's happening within our industry, let's consider some of the forces for change that are affecting us. These forces are not under our control. They're part of the business environment in which we now operate. I get this data from a McKinsey report. One of those forces is the impact of technology change within the 21st century. And I want to compare that change to a previous major upheaval in industry that affected virtually every aspect of how a company runs, the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution was driven first by steam power and then later by electricity. The speed of digital technology adoption is 10 times faster. You've probably heard of Moore's Law, that density and processing power of computer chips doubles every 2 years, and then there's data that shows that computer memory is doubling every 18 months while continually shrinking in physical size, not to mention the fact that the internet capacity is growing by 30% every year. Add to this the scale of where digital transformation is occurring. It's 300 times greater than during the Industrial Revolution. It's happening simultaneously in cities around the world and in virtually every industry. So if we multiply those two factors together, the disruptive force for digital transformation is 3,000 times more powerful than the Industrial Revolution. And again, you can't control those effects. They are occurring whether you react or not. Add to that, there are 4 global demographic forces that are impacting the marketplace and the demand for digital products and services. First, urbanization in emerging economies is shifting those societies from rural to urban centers where digital services are available. I recently had a friend in the USA visit Nepal. He's a technology-savvy millennial, yet at one point he was comparing his cell phone with those of the locals, and all of them had a more advanced device. Another force is that there are new businesses, new technologies, new products, and new markets constantly emerging, which totally disrupt existing industry dynamics. A third demographic shift is the graying of society. People are living longer and have less children. This means that the population around the world has more disposable income and more interest in things that in the past were viewed as luxuries. From Maslow's hierarchy of needs standpoint, they are focusing on higher order needs, which typically are enhanced with digital products and services. And finally, there's the greater global connectivity. That means trade, people, financial markets, and data. This connectivity limits a company's ability to create a safe haven. Every company has to compete on a global basis, and that takes digital technology. Let me show you one more set of data to explain to you the urgency of conducting a digital changeover in your business, and that's the technology adoption rate. This graph from Singularity shows the number of years that it took until 1/4 of the population in the USA had adopted a new technology. The vertical bar shows the number of years until that 1/4 adoption point is reached, and the horizontal axis shows when that technology was first introduced for commercial use. So on the far left, we have electricity introduced in 1873, and it took 46 years until 1/4 of the consumers were using it. Followed by the telephone, introduced in 1876, requiring 35 years until 1/4 of the consumers had one. Now let's jump ahead until the early 20th century. Television was introduced in 1926, and it took 26 years until 1/4 of Americans had one. The personal computer was introduced in 1975, and it took 16 years, 1991, until 1/4 of the Americans had one. I guess I was an early adopter because I had my first personal computer in 1982. The World Wide Web, otherwise known as the Internet, was commercially launched in 1991, and it took 7 years for 1/4 of Americans to get online. The clear pattern we are seeing is that the time for technology adoption is shrinking. That means that if you aren't already digital, you're falling behind, and your competition is moving ahead rapidly. Let's fast forward to 2009 and the launch of the smartphone. Keep in mind, the smartphone is much more than a phone. It is the host device for all kinds of apps that interact with businesses and the environment in numerous ways to create new products, services, and businesses. Uber would not be possible without a smartphone. At any rate, within 2 years, 30% of the consumers in the USA had a smartphone, and there were already 150,000 apps. And by 2014, just 3 years later, 50% of the USA had a smartphone. There were now 1.2 million apps available. That's like 1.2 million new digital products launched. And there had been over 75 billion, that's billion with a B, apps downloaded. Just as an aside, an app can be created and launched in a matter of a few weeks. The speed of innovation is now going lightning fast, and if you haven't made a digital change yet, or if your changeover is ineffective and stumbling, your company's survival may be at stake. A question I'm often asked is, what does it mean to be digital? Does that mean having a website or an app? Does it mean using artificial intelligence and business analytics? The answer is yes, and a whole lot more. In the digital world, there's a term ecosystem that's often used to describe a digital aspect of the business. Now, for a corporate ecosystem, that's going to mean the infrastructure, the apps, the systems, and a number of other things associated with what it means to be digital. I'm going to continue to use this ecosystem metaphor by giving you a stylized apple orchard to show you what a corporate digital ecosystem looks like. First, there is the ground in which the orchard is planted. We'll call this the infrastructure or enabling elements of the ecosystem. All of these elements are needed to have a vibrant digital ecosystem, but by themselves, they do not create a significant digital competitive advantage. All of these types of capabilities have been around in one form or another for years, but with the dawn of the digital age, they've been transformed by orders of magnitude, and they're still growing in capacity, speed, and sophistication. These elements are the sensors and controls from devices that are on the Internet of Things, cloud computing, big data, and digital communication. Next, there are the workflow elements. These elements are used to change business products and processes. These are called workflow elements because the application of these will fundamentally change how your business processes work. You don't need to use all of these elements, but you will need to use some combination on any product or process that you want to go digital. How you apply these elements is determined by your business strategy. One of these elements is the use of analytics. That means aggregating data from many sources and converting that into meaningful information about a business product or process. This element can change the decision-making level and the approach in any business process. The next one is the creation of a digital platform. These are software systems that connect different individuals in order to transact business. An example is the Amazon platform. This workflow element can change the way sales and fulfillment processes work. Another workflow element is cybersecurity. Critical business and personal data is both being stored and is moving across the systems and platforms. Cybersecurity creates processes and systems to protect that data from unauthorized access and data corruption. The next workflow element is artificial intelligence or machine learning. This element is used to transfer decision-making for some types of decisions and analyses from people to digital systems. This will significantly change the design of the process and the role of people within a process. Let's not forget automation. Automation is the design of digital systems to perform routine tasks at a set schedule or a point in a process. Automation has been around for decades, but the sophistication of the infrastructure elements has increased its applicability by orders of magnitude. And finally, let me mention blockchain. This workflow element is often associated with cryptocurrency, but it's actually far more significant than that. The blockchain creates an incorruptible record of transaction, any transaction. The use of blockchain can allow digital systems to do business with each other instantaneously without people in the decision-making loop. This can completely change any transaction-based business process. Each of the workflow elements are applied to business processes and nurtured by the infrastructure elements. The results are the application of digital methods, which become the engaging elements, which means that these are the points of contact with the digital systems by customers, suppliers, employees, or any other stakeholder. When people think digital, they often think of these, since they are the fruit of our digital ecosystem orchard. But remember, we can't create these without the infrastructure elements and at least some of the workflow elements. Examples of the engaging elements are smart devices, meaning physical devices that process data and provide functionality. Dashboards, which display analytics and can be used to control processes. Apps, which are programs that are run on smart devices and allow users to interface with other business systems. Robots, which are electromechanical devices that often combine automation with the results of other workflow elements. Then there is virtual reality and augmented reality. Again, it is combining results from applying several workflow elements such as automation, analytics, digital platform, and artificial intelligence. Now, a special case of robots that has taken the industry by storm is chatbots. These are software robots which interact with systems, applications, and people to perform functions within a digital ecosystem. Our ecosystem is not complete without bringing in the outside forces that drive the growth and the development of the ecosystem. These are customer expectations and technology advances. Each of these are rapidly changing, creating a demand for more and varied engaging elements. So let's wrap up this discussion by recognizing that there isn't just one or two things you need to do to go digital. It will likely require many projects and actions, and these need to stay coordinated in order to leverage the benefits of one element in the use and creation of another element. This means we need a strategy. You can't leave this to a haphazard approach. So let me focus now on each of these elements and how you should be approaching them in your digital changeover strategy. So what should your strategy for infrastructure elements look like? Remember, the infrastructure elements are the organization's technical capabilities for creating and processing digital data. We define these as the devices connected to the Internet of Things, cloud computing, big data, and digital communications. We refer to these as enabling elements. These enable a company to implement a digital changeover or digital transformation strategy. These elements are necessary for a company to successfully operate in the digital manner. Within the corporation's digital ecosystem, they provide support and nurture or enable the other elements to operate successfully. These elements are complementary and to some degree reinforce each other. The data stream created by the Internet of Things devices need the digital communications to transfer their data to big data databases and cloud computing to process all the data. The amount of IoT influences the other elements, but the amount of cloud computing capabilities or digital communication bandwidth will also influence the sample rate of the IoT or the sophistication of the big data routines and the systems that are used. Now you may be saying to yourself, our organization already has all of these in place. Our strategy doesn't need to address these. But keep in mind, these elements are continually changing. IoT capabilities are growing exponentially. Cloud computing is still following Moore's law of doubling every 2 years. The big data capability is evolving constantly, and digital communication infrastructure is also growing. If what you have is more than 2 years old, it's obsolete. Your strategy needs to be constantly assessing your current capability and determining if you can increase capability while lowering costs and complexity as you adopt the latest improvements in these areas. This aspect of your digital changeover strategy will require constant updates. Just like you need to regularly fill your automobile with gas and change the oil or rotate the tires, you need to regularly update and upgrade these elements. But keeping these up to date will not be enough to transform your business. These create, move, and process data, but they don't change how work is done. If the processes you have stink, they'll just increase the smell. So while these are a necessary element of a digital changeover strategy, they are not the full answer. Now let's look at the digital process workflow elements and the strategy associated with them. Recall, these are the elements like digital platform, analytics, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, blockchain, and automation. As I stated before, these elements will change the way work is done in your organization. They could change decision-making roles or levels. They could change the design of your processes, typically reducing the number of steps, sometimes even reducing these by an order of magnitude. Also, they could change the flow of information or material within the organization. The result is that your business operations will be different when you apply these elements. Now, I realize that different isn't always better, but in this case, these elements are used to improve the customer experience or your operational efficiency. The application of these elements will often lead to the creation of new products or services, especially customized products and services. Also, these elements will often reduce the time, resources, and therefore the cost associated within your business processes. So, what's not to like? New customized products and services at a lower cost and a faster delivery. So this is where strategy comes in. The fundamental principle about setting a business strategy is deciding to allocate resources to some activities and, just as importantly, to not allocate resources to other activities. The business strategy will decide which of these elements will be used and on which processes they will be applied. These elements can be mixed and matched in many different ways on many different products and processes. The combination and the depth and breadth of deployment are critical business strategic decisions. This is often the primary focus of your digital strategy development. One thing to keep in mind, and a reason that strategy needs to be updated regularly, is that the sophistication of these elements, even the existence of these elements, changes regularly. Factory automation of 10 or 20 years ago is quite different than the types of factory automation available today. Cybersecurity principles constantly evolve as new threats are created, and blockchain as an element of corporate digital strategy did not even exist a few years ago, and now it's becoming a staple in supplier management processes. Let's move on to our third category of digital changeover elements. These are the digital application or engagement elements. These are the outward manifestation of the implementation of a digital changeover strategy. And this includes things like robots and apps, chatbots and smart devices, dashboards and virtual reality. Now, this is just an illustrative list, not an exhaustive list. There are many different application elements that will be created over time. This is where your customers, your employees, your suppliers touch your business, and these are the ways that they think that you have become digital. These are the points of digital communication and interaction. In most cases, this is how customers, employees, suppliers, and other digital stakeholders will be engaging with your organization. That is why many people think of these items as what it means to be a digital business or have a digital business process, because they are the physical manifestations and outworking of everything that is going on within your digital systems. Think of these as the touch points where people with their five senses will interface with your digital operations. I hope it's obvious by now that you can't create these application or engaging elements without the infrastructure elements to create, move, and analyze data, and the workflow elements to design the products, processes, and interfaces. I can't create a dashboard if I haven't first generated the data, aggregated the data, analyzed the data, designed a process where the data provides insight into the process performance, and delivered that insight to the correct decision makers for that process. Without the infrastructure elements as enablers and the workflow elements as designers of my ecosystem, I can't create and harvest the fruit of my application elements. These elements have an interesting place in the digital strategy. They are not normally identified uniquely because they are often changing. So your strategy may be to use analytics to create operator dashboards for your internal processes. But the strategy documents will not identify and specify each unique dashboard. Likewise, you may strategically decide to automate the logistics process, but the actual robot design is not an element of your strategy. Instead, your digital strategy provides areas of focus and allocates resources based upon the priority of upgrading infrastructure elements and the implementation of workflow elements. There's one more critical element of strategy development that needs to be acknowledged, and that's the external forces that you'll be using to guide your strategy. Digital strategy, just like any other element of business strategy, must be grounded in reality. The business success is measured in real-world results, not in hypothetical or altruistic alternative universes. There are real customers, real suppliers, real markets, and real constraints that need to be understood when creating a strategy. There are two external elements that have a huge impact on our strategy and are constantly changing. These are customer expectations and technology advance. Now, I know I've called these external forces, but you may be thinking that your company can significantly influence these. Your marketing will help to set customer expectations, and your R&D is driving technology advances. Well, on a limited basis, this is correct, but your internal efforts will have little impact on digital strategy unless you are inventing a whole new class of products or services. So, inventing the smartphone or an autonomous car may fall right into those categories, but by and large, we need to react to these external forces. Changes in both of these are happening rapidly. Customer expectations for your digital products or services will be based upon the most recent interaction with any other digital product or service from any other industry. If Amazon adds a feature to their digital retail experience, customers will expect that feature to be in your online store also. And, as already stated, innovation in cloud computing, big data, digital communication, and Internet of Things is continuing at a breathtaking pace. And the direction of these changes is unpredictable for the same reasons mentioned a moment ago. What makes a new app go viral? I don't know, but when it does, your app needs to respond with similar capability. When will the next breakthrough occur in artificial intelligence or blockchain? I don't know, but whenever it does, the commercial applications are likely to be on the market within just a few weeks or months. So the bottom line is that these forces can and should impact strategy, and they should definitely be used to prioritize your tactics. What I mean by that is the infrastructure and workflow elements should be updated based on broad trends in these areas, and the individual application or engagement elements should be created based upon the latest fads. So let's wrap this up by considering the key elements and impacts of a digital changeover in your business. First, a digital changeover can affect any and all aspects of your business ecosystem. It's not just an IT upgrade. You may need to transform your business model to a platform business like Uber. You will need to undoubtedly change business processes to be faster, cheaper, and more accurate. This can change the roles and responsibilities of your employees, managers, and suppliers and customers. You will also undoubtedly change at least some of your products and services, likely being more customized or offering additional online help and services with your products. The customer interactions will change so as to do business through apps and smart devices instead of face-to-face. And all this combined illustrates that the corporate culture for an industrial age business will need to change in order to operate like a digital age business. Your digital strategy and digital changeover can allow you to compete in the newly created digital marketplace. Many of these digital marketplaces are gobbling up the old industrial age markets. For example, travel agents are a dying breed because airlines, hotels, and resorts have created online sales processes and are combining these to create vacation platforms. As an industrial age business, you need to change and adapt. The digital native startup companies have a different business model that lets them immediately connect with digital consumers and leave you out of the discussion. Added to that, digital giants are taking their digital acumen and applying it in industries where they see an opportunity to leverage their infrastructure elements with new lines of business. It's not an exaggeration to state that digital changeover will impact every industrial age business and their processes. A successful digital changeover strategy that is implemented well will change the business and its processes so as to allow it to successfully compete in the new digital ecosystems. An unsuccessful strategy, or worse, no strategy at all, will impact the business and its processes due to the business shrinking and the processes disappearing. And both of those will likely happen in the not too distant future.
Well, I hope you have found this helpful as you consider developing a digital changeover strategy for your company. Now, to further assist you in creating your digital changeover strategy, we have a free ebook available for download entitled The Digital Changeover. That book will give you a better understanding of the elements of a digital changeover strategy. Also, we have a free digital inventory assessment tool that you can use to identify opportunities for your organization to become a digital powerhouse in your industry. After completing the digital inventory assessment, you'll receive a free report that gives you an opportunity analysis. Once again, if you'd like assistance and coaching with your digital changeover, don't hesitate to contact us. I wish you all the best on your digital changeover journey. If you would like more information or to contact us for assistance in the development of your strategy, please email me at ray.sheen@thedigitalchangeover.com.